Whoa, did you know that Western Texas just declared a national emergency because of the amount of earthquakes they've had out there? What they're not telling you. Are we on the brink of a major disaster? Meanwhile, scientists are pushing the boundaries with risky geoengineering experiments to control climate change. But could these radical interventions have catastrophic consequences? We're going to talk about that. From cloud brightening to blocking the sun, we uncover the truth behind these controversial projects and their unpredictable impacts on our planet. So today's topics covered: the mysterious Texas earthquakes shaking the communities, the science behind seismic activity in Snyder and Hermleigh, geoengineering, a desperate measure or a dangerous gamble, the unintended effects of cloud brightening and sun blocking experiments, the role of wealthy donors in pushing geoengineering projects, potential consequences for our climate and environment. Also, did you know that the volcano in Iceland is possibly going to be erupting for hundreds of years? Well, that's what some say. We're going to get into it, so buckle up, Buttercup. And I want to know your thoughts on these earthquakes and geoengineering projects. Leave in the comment section below your thoughts. And here we go. Get some. I just beat my record yesterday on my mountain bike on Turkey Loop. It was pretty awesome. I beat it by about 5 minutes, which is pretty good. So, just saying. Oh, I did want to show you real quick. So, let me show you some of the discounts. This is the website. So, if you want to order some product and get discounts on the product, get organic quality products, and then get $5 off, just go to shoplivegood.com/RexBear, or just click the link specific. Check this out. If you become a member, not only do they set you up with your own website and then you get the discounts, but look at the price. $29.95, $30 for whey protein isolate with colostrum, non-GMO. I mean, look at the certification on this. Grass-fed. This is really high quality product. And if you compare it to other products that don't even have the colostrum, it's half the price. So if you become a member at Live Good, you get these prices, and that's just one. Let me show you another. So this is my coffee that I got. Delicious. $18. Paid $18 for it. Look at the certifications. Organic. And look at the price difference. It's half the cost. Now the Rise coffee, I've got Rise coffee. It's pretty good. The Four Sigmatic, that's pretty good. I think this is every bit as good, if not better, and it's organic and it's half the price. Just to put it into perspective. Now, they also have stuff for endurance, electrolytes, energy, the organic Super Reds. I just ordered some Super Reds, and $18, folks. Yeah, $18. Compared to $70 or $40. And it's organic. And it's 5 stars. Look at the certification. Boom. Hello. Get yours. So just click the link specific in the video description box. Let me know what you think when you get the products. Let's get back to the podcast right now. Hello. Boom. The first article that I'm going to share with you is from Quan.com. State of disaster declared after West Texas earthquake frenzy. The strongest of the swarm of earthquakes was a 5.1 magnitude recorded on Friday. West Texas County has declared a state of disaster in the wake of a damaging sequence of earthquakes that rocked the region in just the past 7 days. West Texas has experienced over 100 earthquakes, with 4 of the tremors clocking in at a 4.0 magnitude and the highest at a 5.1, which was recorded on Friday morning near Hermleigh, Texas, in Scurry County. In response to the increased seismic activity, structural damage, safety concerns, and a need to mobilize resources, the county has declared a state of disaster. Declaring this disaster for our city and county does not mean we anticipate a larger earthquake, said Scurry Country Judge Dan Hicks in a statement. This action is simply setting certain pieces into motion in the event additional resources are needed and to keep our citizens informed and safe. Now, this swarm of earthquakes could be related to oil and gas activity in the area. Further investigation is needed to determine a specific cause. The Railroad Commission of Texas, which regulates the state's oil and gas industry, said it's looking into any connection between tremors and the injection of fluids in the ground for the extraction of petroleum. In efforts to reduce seismicity possibly caused by underground injection of produced water, several operators in the area have converted deep saltwater disposal wells to shallow saltwater disposal wells within the last year, the RRC said in a statement on Monday. RRC inspectors have been inspecting saltwater disposal wells within 2.5 miles of the cluster of earthquakes, and we will evaluate next steps that can be taken to mitigate earthquakes. Read all about it, cron.com. Now, let's do a screen share here real quick. I want to show you this. This is from Google Maps satellite imagery, Permian Basin. Now, the reason I want to show you this area, this is in Texas. This is West Texas. West Texas is where the majority of these earthquakes are being reported. And I remember several years ago when I just got into YouTube, started doing podcasts, there was news about a town called Kermit in Texas that was being swallowed by a sinkhole, allegedly. So I went out there to check it out. And there was a huge area that was covered in tape and off limits to the public because a sinkhole was swallowing and devouring the land. And there was another guy out there doing the same thing. He was looking at the area. Now, when you drive out into this area, miles before you get into the town, it smells so bad, like rotten eggs from all the petroleum products that they're pulling up from the lands and all the fracking and the chemicals. And it is, oh, it stunk so bad. I can't even imagine living out there. I guess you'd get used to it, but I don't know how that is for the body. Well, here's Permian Basin. Now, if you can tell by this screenshot here, this is satellite imagery. Look at all the fracking. Look at all the wells. I mean, could you imagine if there was a disaster, some type of catastrophic event that caused the majority of these wells to break? I mean, just looking at it now. Miles and miles and miles of these fracking sites. I wonder how many abandoned wells are out here that are leaking into the land. I mean, I understand the need for petroleum. I understand the need for gas, and I understand the need for energy. And I understand that even some of the greener alternatives oftentimes aren't necessarily greener in the long run. But this is crazy. I mean, look at that. Miles and miles and miles. Looks pretty gnarly. I don't see much vegetation out there. Look at this. How would you like to work out here full time? A lot of desert, a lot of dry fields. A lot of fracking. A lot of open land. Is that a swimming pool? Oh, no, I was like, somebody's got a swimming pool right next to the petroleum fields. Lovely. Here's a little patch of green right here. Oh, it's a lake. I thought it was grass. It's a lake. Oh my. It's connected to the Colorado River. Look at that. All the way down here. You got a few houses even. Look at this. Water's so clean, it's green. Look at all these parks. What the park looks like. Oh my. Whoa. Hey, kids, come on. Let's go to McDonald's and then go to the park. Let's go swimming. It'll be fun. If your skin starts to feel weird after, and like you can't feel anything, don't worry about it. Just put on some more sunscreen. You'll be fine. Why are there thousands of earthquakes in Texas each year now? Like, it wasn't 100 years ago, wasn't that? Why are there thousands of earthquakes in Texas each year now? Becoming increasingly common in the Lone Star State, particularly in West Texas. Well, wait, we were just looking at West Texas. I think this is where that sinkhole wink. Yeah, I think Kermit. Let's look this up real quick. Giant sinkhole Kermit. Yep. Boom. Exactly what I told you. Look at this. June 2016, March 2017. Giant sinkholes near Wink, Texas are expanding on the verge of swallowing an entire town. Sinkhole warnings don't phase West Texas. Wink sink, but it don't phase Texas. I mean, I lived in Texas for a long time, and Texas is tough. But giant sinkholes aren't good, okay? I'm just saying. So it's all kind of in the same area there. Western Texas, and specifically the Permian Basin, have seen a significant increase in seismicity since about 2019. Rubenstein said, today's earthquakes near Sydney is the 5th magnitude, 5 or larger earthquake we've seen since 2020. That just came out 6 days ago. HoustonPublicMedia.org. Well, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out, folks. But hey, they're still trying to figure out if it's related to seismicity, or they're still trying to figure out if it's related to the fracking and all the water and all the chemicals that they're pumping into the ground. They can't tell yet. They still have to. They need more research, folks. They need more data. Kind of like this, cloud brightening could have unintended effects in a warming world. This is EOS.org. New research shows that through marine cloud brightening holds potential to temporarily reduce heat stress regionally. The technique has unpredictable and far-reaching outcomes. Yeah, it goes on to talk about how it can actually get hotter in the years to come. I talked about this 10 years ago. You probably talked about this 10 years ago. You were labeled as wearing a hat with tinfoil 10 years ago when you talked about this. But now, since the mainstream's talking about it, it's okay. It's normal now. It's like, oh, yeah, well, I mean, if the mainstream's talking about it, it must be okay. Don't worry about it. I know they say there's side effects, but it's going to be okay. They're going to figure it out. It's okay to put chemicals into the ocean to, cool the planet. It's just some chemical. Like, are you really thinking it's wow? So let's just read this. A new study in Nature Climate Change focused on the west coast of the U.S. found that through marine cloud brightening and MCBs, it could bring some relief from summer heat exposure. Its effectiveness diminishes under warmer temperature regimes. So the authors used a community Earth system model version 2 to simulate MCB in 2 places off the coast of California and the Aleutian Islands of Alaska. The decision to model these places was driven by the fact that they could routinely experience heat waves. Researchers simulated present-day conditions as well as those of a mid-century warming forecast for around 2050. They found that MCB under present conditions resulted in reduced summer heat stress across both California and the Aleutians. But, big but here, by 2050, the 2050 simulations did not predict any cooling in the targeted regions, and in other regions actually resulted in exasperated heat stress and hotter summers. Oh, what a surprise. Than predicted. To otherwise occur under global warming, according to the authors, regions affected by the MCB during simulated mid-century warming in California and Alaska included Northeastern Asia, Europe, as well as central US. These results demonstrate how unintuitive marine cloud brightening can be, because the desired impacts, which are the seemingly logical impacts, may not be the only impacts, said Jessica Wan, first author of the study and a PhD student at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Yep, I shared with you an article from Norway from 2017 that basically said the same thing, folks. Here's the science paper from Nature Climate Change, or from nature.com. Diminished efficacy of regional marine cloud brightening in a warmer world. There it is. So what are you going to do if you're a scientist and you're trying to cool the planet? Well, you're going to try risky air and water experiments hoping to stop climate change, right? Mishtalk.com. Scientists desperate to stop or reverse climate change are dumping chemicals in the ocean, spraying salt water in the air. What could possibly go wrong? Let's take a look. Dumping chemicals into the ocean, spraying salt water in the clouds, injecting reflective particles into the sky. Scientists are resorting to once unthinkable techniques to cool the planet because global efforts to check greenhouse gas emissions are failing. I think this originally came out like Washington, the WSJ, the Wall Street Journal. These geoengineering approaches were once considered taboo by scientists and regulators who feared that tinkering with the environment could have unintended consequences. But now researchers are receiving taxpayer funds to do it and get private investors to dump millions of dollars so they can get out of the lab and test these methods outdoors. Oh yeah, let's go. Tweaking the climate. 3 projects underway aim to alter the chemistry of the atmosphere and oceans to cool the planet. They're testing chemicals that reflect sunlight. They're using aircraft that can reach the stratosphere, and they're going to disperse particles. Stratospheric aerosol injection. Reflective particles mimic the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions. Marine cloud brightening by spraying saltwater mist into the air. Scientists hope to increase the number and surface area of cloud droplets. Ocean alkalinity enhancement. A liquid solution makes seawater more alkaline, drawing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. After the chemical reaction, CO2 is stored as bicarbonate in the upper ocean. The experiment's underway. Marine cloud brightening. Researchers aboard a ship off the northeastern coast of Australia near the Whitsunday Islands are spraying a briny mixture using high-pressure nozzles into the air in an attempt to brighten low-altitude clouds that form over our oceans. Scientists hope bigger, brighter clouds will reflect sunlight away from the Earth, shade the ocean surface, and cool the waters around the Great Barrier Reef, where warming ocean temperatures have contributed to major coral die-offs. The research project known as Marine Cloud Brightening is led by Southern Cross University as part of a $64.55 million or 100 million Australian dollars reef restoration and adaptation program. Also, Stardust Solutions. In Israel, a startup called Stardust Solutions has begun testing a system to disperse a cloud of tiny reflective particles about 60,000 feet in altitude, reflecting sunlight away from Earth to cool the atmosphere in a concept known as solar radiation management. I would really like to know what these microparticles are. And I would like to know if they can get into humans and the environment and plants and water and pets and animals and insects. Like, what are the consequences of these tiny reflective particles? What are they? And then listen to this. Dumping lye into the ocean. In Massachusetts, researchers at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution plan to pour 6,000 gallons of a liquid solution of sodium hydroxide, which is a component of lye, into the ocean 10 miles south of Martha's Vineyard this summer. They hope the chemical base will act like a big tablet of Tums. Oh yeah, perfect. Lowering the acidity of a patch of surface water and absorbing 20 metric tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, storing it safely in the ocean, so they say. Volcanoes. Maybe that's why volcanoes are starting to pop, right? Like maybe that's why there's an increase in EQ in earthquakes and seismic activity around many of the the volcanoes, Hawaii, Iceland. There's a lot of activity the past couple of years around Mount St. Helens. Scientists are concerned about Mount Rainier. Yellowstone, Biscuit Basin just had a thermal blast. It's going to be shut down the rest of the summer out there. The scientists are saying, and the geologists are saying that don't worry, it's just a normal thermal explosion. It's nothing out of the extraordinary, hopefully. But it seems like the Earth has its own way of balancing out nature. Earth has its own way of working things out. And I remember reading that article from Norway that said the whole world was a part of this experiment of geoengineering. And that the computer models showed that it would work at first, but in the long run, it wouldn't work as well. And if they stopped it, then the Earth would have to make up for all those years of the geoengineering. So it would get even more intense in the long term. But maybe they see something with the magnetosphere right now. When I say they, I'm talking about people at the top levels that are helping implement certain decisions for the atmosphere and the climate that are connected with the DoD and other organizations. Maybe they see something with our magnetosphere that they're not necessarily telling us. So they're looking for these alternatives that seem to be extreme and are extreme, but the other extreme could be even worse. I don't know. I'm just taking all the data I can find here and all the research that I've done over the past 20 plus years. And it seems like now it is making mainstream news. Now it is making the newspapers and the front page, and even if just for a minute, and then it's making, it's hitting people's TVs. They're turning on the TV. They're talking about it in the news. So now this is starting to get public traction, and people can take off their tinfoil suits. There's a lot of misinformation that I can see where it started from, because there's different applications of geoengineering, and there's different applications of stratospheric aerosol injection, and there's different applications for cloud seeding, and there's different applications for contrails and stuff that comes out of contrails. I thought I found a patent several years ago that described a mixture in the jet fuel to help create clouds. Here's another article, Scientific American. Canceled experiment to block the sun won't stop rich donors from trying. A botched geoengineering experiment to limit the amount of sunlight hitting Earth hasn't dimmed donors' enthusiasm for funding the research. Wealthy philanthropists with ties to Wall Street and Silicon Valley are unbound by a botched climate experiment to limit the amount of sunlight hitting the Earth, vowing to continue bankrolling future solar geoengineering tests as temperatures catapult upward. Politico contacted a dozen people or groups who funded a controversial program by the University of Washington to reflect sun rays by altering clouds. Those who responded indicated that it's worth pushing through the public skepticism surrounding efforts to determine how to best deploy the last-ditch global warming fix, if at all. So they're making it sound like this is their very last chance to save the world, folks. Did you hear that? Let me repeat it. This is what the article says. Those who responded indicated that it's worth pushing through the public skepticism surrounding efforts to determine how to best deploy the last-ditch global warming fix, if at all. A little bit of fear-based writing there, you think? No, not at all. The Pritzker Innovation Fund believes in the importance of research that helps improve climate models and enables policymakers and the public to better understand whether climate interventions like marine cloud brightening are feasible and advisable. Rachel Pritzker, the fund's founder and president, said in a statement, "We will only get answers to these questions through open research that can inform science-based democratic decision-making." The funders' comments came after two different high-profile experiments were shut down because of public backlash, which points to challenges of conducting controversial research, that could have long-term consequences. Also, it could affect weather, causing weather disruptions and other unintended consequences. The latest experiment was derailed earlier this month when local officials in Alameda, California, rejected a request by Washington researchers to restart a test to brighten clouds from the deck of a decommissioned aircraft carrier in San Francisco Bay. Also, that move followed a March cancellation of another solar geoengineering experiment in Sweden. Most funders of the Alameda experiment didn't respond to inquiries, but the assertions of those who did suggest there's a strong base of philanthropic support for solar geoengineering research. That can also be things like, spraying reflective particles miles above the Earth's surface. Our goal is to support the basic science needed to assess the role of aerosols in the atmosphere, particularly the stratosphere, said David Spergel, president of the Simons Foundation. We want to have the basic science in place so that society can evaluate the possible benefits and costs of stratospheric aerosol injection or marine cloud brightening. Oh, the foundation started in 1994, 30 years ago, by former hedge fund manager Jim Simmons and his wife, Marilyn Simmons, has long supported a wide variety of the University of Washington research. The Alameda experiment lasted for 20 minutes, and then it was shut down. The Environmental Defense Fund has signaled its intention to start funding other solar geoengineering research. The group's backing provided a mainstream endorsement of the controversial field, and critics say that could dampen efforts to reduce pollution in the climate. And it could. Now let's talk about this for a minute. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about being a part of a global experiment with the environment, your family, your friends, yourself, and money talks more? I just want to hear what you have to say about this. I can appreciate scientists wanting to save the world. I can appreciate if they have the right mind, if they're doing it for the right reasons, and if they have the right science and research to back it up. If we can work out a relationship, a symbiotic relationship with the world, I get it. And let's do more research. All right, next article. Here we go. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Iceland's volcano eruptions may last decades. The beginning of a long disruptive volcanic episode near Iceland's capital. This is from the University of Oregon Science Daily. Scientists predict from geochemical data that Iceland is entering a new volcanic era that will last for decades, possibly centuries. Oh, yeah. Under an hour's drive from the country's capital city, the ongoing eruptions pose considerable risk for economic disruption, and they leave evacuated communities uncertain of a possible return. The eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula have forced authorities to declare a state of emergency, with a series of 8 eruptions having occurred since 2021. This southwest region is home to 70% of the country's population, its only international airport, and several geothermal power plants that supply hot water and electricity. The most recent eruption in May through June, triggering the evacuation of residents and visitors of the Blue Lagoon Geothermal Spa, a popular tourist attraction for the 3rd time in more than 2 months. Although Iceland sees regular eruptions because it sits about above a volcanic hotspot, the Reykjanes Peninsula has been dormant for 800 years. Its last volcanic era continued over centuries, however, prompting scientists to predict the renewed volcanism to be the start of a long episode. Did you know that almost all of Iceland is built from lava? The country sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge the tectonic plate boundary that causes North America and Eurasia to push further apart. The drifting of these plates can spark volcanic eruptions when hot rock from the Earth's mantle, the middle of the largest layer of the planet, melts and rises to the surface. Although scientists know the origin of Fracking Peninsula's current eruptions is plate movement, the kind of magma storage and plumbing systems that feed them are unidentified. There you go. Swamp gas, sinkholes, volcanoes, slowing Earth's inner core, according to the seismic data. Haven't been there, haven't seen it, just sharing with you the science papers. Very, very interesting. I always say be prepared, not scared. Pretty good motto, right? Thanks for watching. Hit the bell, be well. Check us out over on Patreon as well as leakproject.com. Tons of long format interviews. And be the change you want to see. Real quick, check us out over on Patreon. Why? Because I have hundreds of hours of exclusive content, ad-free, uncensored, unedited, stuff that we can only talk about on Patreon, beyond the cutting edge, and you'll get access to it for only $1 a month. And if there's an interview that you want me to do, a guest that you want me to get on the show, or a topic that you want me to discuss, if you leave a comment over on Patreon, I'll do my best to get that guest on the podcast or that subject. And I'll even do my best to get back to you here on YouTube. And your contributions greatly help Leak Project. So check us out over on Patreon, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel here and hit the bell for all notifications, and check back daily for new podcasts. We upload podcasts pretty much every single day. And has anyone told you today that you're awesome? Because you are.